And it's not about a comparison, but it's like when you're jealous of someone, it also limits you to what you're capable of. It's just supposed to trigger action within you. And if it's something that is constantly on your mind, unpack it and look deeper. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I am your host, AZ Araujo, brought to you by Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. I love the brand. I love how that is the foundation of AZ and Associates. And I love how everyone here has embraced, that whole philosophy that we can create everything we want in our lives if we just do the work, if we just focus, if we become clear and just do what's required, our life can change radically. And I do want to thank everyone here. Nora, Rudy, what's up, my brother? Edgar. We got, who else do we got? Can you scroll down? We got Jasenia. We got Claudia, Betty. Thank you for joining me today. And I got a cool topic, all right? And it's don't be a hater. Don't be a hater. And, I think we all have symptoms and characteristics of hate from time to time. And I got to tell you, it's okay. It's okay. And but today I want to distinguish what the differences are and how we can use it to our benefit. Because I don't think any one of us truly has a genuine hate, right? Because when you look at what hater is and what it means, it goes far beyond jealousy, okay? And I think there is a consensus in the general public that they're the same thing, but I think there's a distinct difference. I don't think being jealous and being being a hater are the same things. I think one is more derived from malintent. I think one is really wanting bad things to happen to another person. Being jealous is something natural. It's something that we were given as a gift. Just like anxiety, it's given to us as a gift. It's when we dwell in those places and it creates more negativity that it becomes harmful. It becomes hateful. Meaning you become a hater, right? And if you really look at the core of what hate is, it's not necessarily from a good place. It's not from a powerful place, right? But jealousy is part of who we are as humans. And in business, especially when we're competitive and wanting to push the envelope when it comes to our income and our processes, of course, we're going to have those symptoms of jealousy. But again, we have to check ourselves and see why we're feeling that way. And today I just want to break down how it's affected me throughout the years and how I use it. And really, when you start unpacking jealousy, it reveals so much more. It reveals things that will help us really grow and prosper and expand to the levels we truly desire. Because when you're jealous of something, it's because you almost see yourself there. You feel like it's something that you can create, right? It's how we interpret it and how it either motivates us or how we begin to dwell in that place, kind of like wallow in that place. And again, that can become very dangerous for a lot of us where it starts brewing these negative emotions towards someone or something else. And but I remember early on, jealousy, it's always been a thing that just makes me aware of certain things. And I remember riding the bus to school and bus to work. It would be a 25 to 30-minute bus ride to work. I was a bus boy, okay? So I rode in the bus to become a bus boy at a restaurant. And I don't know if they've made a fancy name for that anymore. I don't know if it's cleaner extraordinaire, how everything else has a fancy name to it. So back then it was just simply known as a bus boy, and some people might find that offensive, right? Grown men becoming bus boys, but that's what I was. And I realized that it was good for a little while, but I knew that that income alone wouldn't give me the things that I wanted, or it would really just require me to work so much more to get a car. And that was the reason why I got my first job. And I was 15 and a half years old. And I wanted a car. And the reason that sparked an ambition or sparked a drive is because I was jealous of a friend of mine who was a little bit older than me that was given a car. Okay, so jealousy was the trigger Okay. But that was just the beginning of so many things more that I had to unpack. Understanding that, okay, if I just went that route alone, it wouldn't necessarily give me the type of income I needed to save up for a car. I mean, I think back then for a busboy, I was only getting paid like $2 or $3 an hour. That was below, the minimum wage. And I was riding on these tips from the waiters, right? That's how the busboys work. They pay very little, a little bit more than the server, but the servers get, the tips, and then they decide. Okay, because there is no concrete type of split here. So it all depends on how they felt that day if they would tip. And I realized something very quickly. Jealousy, yes, got me to take action, but then it also unpacked how I needed to develop my communication skills. Okay, see how that works? It got me to a point where I needed to develop my communication skills to be able to save up to the income or save up to the money I needed to buy my first car. So simply getting that wage and only getting minimum tips from the waiter wasn't going to get me there. It was only a few bucks a day. But I soon realized if I made the waiter's job easier, they would always tip a whole lot more. And I tried this with one waiter and then two waiters, and then everyone wanted to work with me. And then it became this competition of like, hey, I want him in my section because he takes care of it. I do all the things that a busboy would do, plus I would go above and beyond to make it easier for the waiter, so I would get bigger tips. Then I learned something else from there. So the jealousy got me to find out, things I needed to develop about myself. So even though I was jealous of the car, I didn't sit there and start hating on him, how he had it so easy, how he didn't have to work as hard as I did, that his parents were rich, that mine were poor, that, we just don't have the same advantages as he did, right? We can sit there and it becomes hateful and spiteful towards someone else. But instead, that jealousy triggered ambition for me. And I heard this one time, and I can't remember what podcast I was listening to, where it says, jealousy is hidden ambition. But when it goes unchecked, it becomes very destructive. So I noticed this pattern, like these waiters were paying me more tips a night. I was making, 30, 40, 50 bucks in addition to my wage, right? They were paying me a whole lot more because I made their lives easier. I was on my game. And I was making their job easier. So from there, I also learned, if I became more personable with the actual client, many times they would also tip me in addition to the waiter. Okay, so now I started seeing a game of how I can create more money out of the situation I was in. And sure enough, I started getting more tips from customers, tips from my waiters, plus my income. I was able to save up for my car a lot faster than if I would have just stuck to that game plan. If I was just stuck on jealousy and thinking, oh my God, it's going to take me 2 years on this wage to save up a couple $1,000s, I would have just sat there. So jealousy, I learned early on, is a trigger for other things that I needed to develop. It wasn't necessarily the car. I needed to learn these other skill sets to be able to achieve that same result. So another story. What's the crazy thing about hate is that it can easily go from jealousy to hate depending on where we're at in life, right? Because jealousy is supposed to tell you, okay, it's possible. There's ways to achieve it. But it's hard just to check it when you're in a bad spot. My marriage was not good for a while there. And I was jealous of many couples that would show public affection, of wives that would, just speak so highly about their husbands. And I felt resentful because I wasn't getting the same in return. And because I didn't unpack that, I started becoming very hateful, okay, towards my relationship, towards Carla. And it was supposed to spark something great within me. Again, jealousy is supposed to spark this ambition within you. Like you got more skill sets, you got more things to develop, like patience and love and respect. All the things that I wanted from Carla, I needed to provide her, but I couldn't see that far. And then I would see as we're struggling with our business, right? We have no credit. My credit is shot. We have tax liens. The IRS owns me, okay? They own me. They got levies on my properties. I foreclosed on homes. And my business, I'm trying to build it up. I'm having to sell tons of homes just to make ends meet, right? Because the values are so low. My franchise went down the drain. So I'm in this very hateful spot because I'm very disappointed of what my life has resulted in. So anytime I would see somebody with a brand new house, it would just spark this hate. Like, you got it so much easier. Why do they have it and I don't? Look how hard I work. And it was going unchecked on a consistent basis. Borderline hater, right? Because you're too focused on them as individuals and not what they've created or how they created it, which is a better question. I just felt like life was unfair to me. But then again, I was in this pit of disappointment. So how can I have positive, outlooks when I'm stuck in this hateful place? Because I have no money. My business depends 100% on me. Right? I've lost hundreds of thousands. I owe the IRS. My relationship is in the gutter. It's hard. It's hard to show, appreciation for someone else. So it turns very hateful. And I remember one time specifically because, I started growing my company. And when you're in this hateful spot, you don't realize how much you're actually growing. Okay? And I was in this spot of, just grinding because I thought that was the only way to get out of financial problems. And even at the risk of losing my marriage, even at the risk of health issues, right? Because I needed to drink in order to, get the edge off. So it was this constant pressure. It was, and if I did that, my food choices weren't always the best during that time. So I remember there was this other broker, and it seemed like, I was just so focused on what they were doing. They too had a large REO operation. They too had a brokerage, but it seemed like they were so much more successful than I was. I felt like I was just working myself ragged and yet still having a lot of financial problems. Like I couldn't get myself out of the water, right? Because I was drowning. It felt like, I brought the water where I was no longer underwater necessarily, even though all the debts and everything, but at least I could pay the day-to-day costs of things, right? And it felt like I lowered the water just right under my nose, right? Where I can breathe, but any false move and I was already, inhaling water. And I remember I was just focused on other people and I became hateful. And I remember and it's kind of someone, and that's what happens sometimes is that the people that we know closest to us or in our same industry, we become obsessed. Maybe that's where you're at, right? Where you're watching them too much on social media. And the good thing was that we didn't have a lot of social media back then, because then I think I would have been destructive 100%. Okay, so this was just based on people didn't really embrace social media as much as we do today. So I remember this particular person, she was just doing a lot, doing these panels, running a brokerage, running an REO operation. And then, I come to find out that, this person buys a $1 million+ home. And I'm like, I'm still stuck on the house that I lived in, now like 5 years. I really didn't like it. It was too small, but I didn't have a choice. My credit was shot. Even if I did, I don't have enough money for a down payment. And I remember thinking like, how in the hell is that happening? Like I'm working from morning to night, right? We give ourselves too much credit and we don't give enough for all the things that they did or all the skill sets that they developed. And I'm sitting there like, how is it that they're living in this house? Like, what are they doing? Again, thinking that it's an even playing field. And then I started thinking like, to even put a down payment on that. And back then, you got to understand this. Okay, having a $400,000 or a $200,000 payment, down payment, or a $300,000 down payment, which much harder than it is today. Like, you got to understand, there was not a lot of equity in homes. So it's not like you could sell and all of a sudden have $100,000 or $200,000 down and put on another house, right? Because $800,000 homes, $1 million homes nowadays, it's real easy because so much equity that's built out from the house before. We're barely coming out of this economic disastrous time, and not a lot of people had a lot of equity. And if they did, it was only like 20,000 or 30,000, nothing like in the hundreds of thousands. So $200,000, $300,000 down on a house, $1 million home, 1.5 million, let's just say, that's a lot of money. And I was like, wait, I can't even, save up $10,000. How in the hell do they have that much money to put down? Do you see that? It becomes very hateful, trying to diminish what they've done. And luckily, I didn't sit there for very long, but I remember having those feelings, and I didn't feel good about it. And I knew I was giving myself more credit than I should have. I wasn't doing enough. If I didn't have that, I wasn't doing enough. Not only that, I didn't give myself credit for climbing myself out of the hole that I put myself into. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? I didn't even see that because I was too focused on someone else. And one thing that I realized is like, I said this, and this was the root cause because jealousy exposes things. I said, how are they so organized? And how do they have so much time? It wasn't the house. It wasn't the down payment. It was, the true jealousy was on how they were so organized and had the people and the right personnel and the right systems in play to be able to do many more things that I was capable of. That was the core of my jealousy. And if I didn't unpack that, I would have been just stuck there of how life is unfair to me and someone else has an advantage. When all it was is this person became aware of those attributes faster than I was. But it doesn't mean that I'm too late to the game. It doesn't mean that you're too late to the game. It doesn't mean that you're going to copy someone else if you happen to do a video just like this other realtor did. It doesn't mean that you can't get access to all that. That's just the story we tell ourselves so we can sit there and hate on somebody else how they took your idea or how much better they are. When you're truly unpacking that jealousy, it's like, oh, I got skill sets to build. I wish I could get off the cuff on live and just be able to speak. And that's telling you that's exactly what you need to do. But when we don't move on those hidden ambitions, we sit there and hate. And the reality was what this person created was going to be fractional to where I was going to be. But that made me aware that I needed to build systems and processes. I needed to take a chance on myself and reinvest into the company. This wasn't about survival anymore. I need to invest in personnel, in people I couldn't afford at the moment, but people that would deliver at a high level so I can get more business, because that was my true power, is being able to connect with people. So that exposed me, right? The jealousy exposed other things. It wasn't the house. It was how they had control of their lives that I was jealous of. And I was able to pivot and move. Because if I would have just sat there on the materialistic thing, that's as far as I would have gotten. And that's the way we got to look at things. Whenever we get jealous, whenever we get triggered about something, it could be a relationship. It could be a physique. It could be a business. It could be the house that they live in, the cars that they drive. It could be so many other things. That means there's a hidden ambition within you. You too see yourself there, but as opposed to making it about them and about you, what skill sets, what discipline, what consistency, what mindset do you need to have to be able to develop that? That's almost like a trigger to us. Like, hey, you're jealous because you're capable of it. And I see that now. And the reality was I was selling myself short just by saying, oh, look what she's built. My company is 10x that today. My what I've been able to buy personally and create for myself is 10x from there. And it's not about a comparison, but it's like when you're jealous of someone, it also limits you to what you're capable of. It's just supposed to trigger action within you. And if it's something that is constantly on your mind, unpack it and look deeper. Otherwise, you're going to brew in this hate. You're going to brew in it. And all you can do is focus on someone else. You'll never see the true reason why that triggered jealousy to begin with. So I need you to just be aware of these triggers. They're God-given. Jealousy is a God-given feeling because it's supposed to trigger action. It's supposed to look beyond just what they have, but to see it as that's a possibility. That's the next step. I need more people. I need software and systems so that I'm not running myself ragged because at this point, I'm just going to stay here. I need to show more love and patience to your spouse. She is loyal to a fault. Treat her with that respect. Treat her with that love. I can't expect to show that love in public if I can't even show it within private quarters. And it taught me so much. And jealousy is a good emotion, but don't just sit there because hating is also something that's brewed from there, but it's not the intent of jealousy. Hating, you'll catch yourself, and maybe you're around people that are haters where they take the jealousy. It's so worked up. It's no longer about what they have. It's about the person that they spent so much time, focused on, and they start, wishing bad things for them. They start gossiping about them. They start spreading rumors about them because they created negative stories about them as opposed to flipping it on themselves about what about that person right there can trigger this greatness within. And it's really hard, and sometimes you don't even know when you cross the line to being a hater. But I want you to look at those people that are building great things, that have great relationships, great physical specimens, those individuals that have great businesses, that have nonstop leads, that have these millions, that have those houses that you desire. What within them do you see within yourself, and what skill sets do you need to develop to operate at that level? Because they just demonstrated to you that it is possible. Because you can't be jealous of things you don't want. Understand that. You cannot be jealous of things that you don't want or desire. Okay? So that tells me that there's something within us that we can create that. But again, it's about being aware of where our minds are at and not allowing them to go into that negative space. And I truly think that jealousy is a natural emotion, and it's just based on things with desire or value. But it also is a hidden ambition. I heard someone saying that. It's a hidden ambition. Jealousy triggers a hidden ambition. And that's what we have to move on, because it's not necessarily about the home or the car. It's not about the relationship. It's about the person that you need to become in order to operate at that level. You see that? So don't let that jealousy, because again, it's natural. It's natural. And I don't wish any ill will of that person. I'm so thankful because it triggered greatness within. But I could have easily been hateful. Really easy. And guess what? Jealousy sometimes immediately makes you question yourself and exposes your inadequacies. Like I felt less than. I felt a little down. I was like if it had anything to do with me, like, you know what I mean? It's like, why am I allowing it to affect me like that? But I do remember it because it did trigger a lot of actions from me, after the fact, after a little while. But I was asking myself, how? Well, I didn't build enough. I didn't have the skill sets, the mindset to handle that type of money or that type of home. Now, like, people that have a lot more than me, it drives me because I understand the work that it requires. I understand the dedication and the time and energy that is involved with it. So I see people that have a whole lot more than me, and it fires me up because I'm like, dude, I get it. Because I'm not in this negative space, right? Expecting or feeling entitled. Like, it's very, very rare when I'm truly jealous of something. Because I'm rooted in this baseline of doing the work. Working on the 3 pivotal elements of what we should do every day. And because I'm there on a consistent basis, it's not rooted in jealousy. It's more like, okay, I see what you're doing. I need to build greater skill sets. So even this guy that has all these views on YouTube, you found something I don't have right now. This other guy that has, hundreds of millions of dollars, you've done things and taken more risks than I was willing to do. Good for you, but let me see if I can do some things to even get to that point. So it now is sparking ambition. It doesn't make me feel like I'm inadequate anymore. Because I know it's only a matter of time. If I do the right things day in and day out, it's only a matter of time. But I have to be honest with myself. Am I doing those things on a daily basis? Are you doing those things on a daily basis? And many agents in this industry sit back and just are so involved in other people's business, but yet they're unwilling to do the things that they have. The risks. They avoid being embarrassed and humiliated, right? By going live or making videos because they may not sound as professional as this other person. But they just sparked something within you. You're capable of that, but it's going to require many, many reps. So as you're going on today, be aware of your feelings, your emotions. What is life telling you to do? Where is life telling you to pivot and move? Or you can just wallow in that jealousy, wallow in spite, and start hating on others, being that person that's known for spreading rumors. We all have a choice. But I'm so grateful for the lessons life is treating me. But jealousy is a beautiful thing. All right, embrace it because it's exposing greatness within you. You can only be jealous of the things you truly value and desire. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me for this episode of Mindset Mastery. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Badass Agents Podcast, brought to you by AZ & Associates and Do the Work Coaching and Consulting. You can watch this and other episodes by subscribing to our channel on YouTube or by visiting us directly at badassagents.com. And of course, you can listen to this episode and many others on your preferred podcast provider.